Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Date in a Blink, where we're hosting Jon and Michelle for a blink date. What is Date in a Blink, you ask? It's a 10-minute audio-only blind speed date experience. It's also a bit of a social experiment designed to move people beyond looks-based assumptions, curated profiles, and marathon messaging.
We at The Blink Date want dating to be fun and inspiring for blinkers and hope this podcast inspires you to try new ways of meeting people and dating. Will our hand-picked matches find love on these blink dates? Or will they say goodbye to each other after 10 minutes and never look back?
If you're new here, we're so happy you could join us. If you're a regular, we're so glad you've returned. Before we jump into today's blink date, here's a quick word from our sponsors. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain a bit. It's totally free, and Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and lots of other podcasting platforms. Not only that, but it has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also lets you make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make your podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. We are here on Date in a Blink today with Jon and Michelle. I'm going to let you two dive in, but in case it's helpful to get the conversation started, I'm going to leave you with this question. What character from a book would you want to be for a day?
Did you want to answer that first, or would you like me to tackle this question?
You can definitely go first.
Okay. So the character in a book that I would want to be is a character from a series of books known as Redwall. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Redwall series.
Oh, all the animals?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love those.
Yeah. So I think just to imagine living life where I don't have to deal too much with the complexities of society would be interesting. I know, and also just like in the descriptions of the books, the way they describe all the food, it sounds really healthy and really tasty, which I think is a little bit hard to come by in our world.
Yeah, for sure. No, that I feel like stealing your answer now, but I'm gonna try not to, because I actually haven't read fiction in a really long time now. So yeah, I usually read nonfiction nowadays, and when I think of fiction, I think of stuff back in like high school, like reading a lot of Dostoevsky and really like depressing stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be the characters in any of these books of like Slaughterhouse-Five and like, I don't know, Heart of Darkness, like those kind of books. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to be in that universe. For sure. But I mean, gosh, ages ago, I used to read a lot of manga, if you are aware, or like familiar with that.
I am.
But I think I can't think of a specific thing, but it would be nice to be like the main female character of like a shoujo manga where you just have like all these pretty things happening around you all the time and you're just like the heroine of your story. That sounds so ridiculous.
No, that's great. I think I understand manga and I get all the references. So, well, at least all the references you make. I'm not completely knowledgeable about manga. But I think the idea of being able to be in control of your destiny, and it's one where you see a lot of the beauty in life rather than the, like sadness or the darkness of it, that would be a wonderful world to live in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I am curious though, if you were to be in a shoujo manga, would you be in kind of like the high school slice of life type of area, or would it be more of the worlds where you're already an adult, or maybe in college?
Well, that's a very good question. Oh my gosh. Because there's like definitely that, nostalgia of like, oh, the back in the day when we were children, like high school, young love kind of thing. And I don't know, at least in my high school days, I didn't really experience that. So I kind of like experienced vicariously through like characters that I would read about in like stories like that. And so I think that would be kind of nice to be dropped into that alternate universe where like younger Michelle actually has like a cute high school life or something.
No, I can relate to that. Yeah. My high school experience was not the greatest either. It was very much a background character in all the movies.
Oh no. Yeah. It's like, would you say that your high school life was just like, is that something you want to talk about at all? Like,
I can talk about it. I don't mind. So I think for me, high school was a more difficult period just because I grew up in an area where there was a lot of people with wealth, and my family didn't have that much wealth. So I was constantly going to school and seeing kids come in with like the latest clothes or like the latest, like flip phone, because flip phones were a thing back then.
oh yeah.
And so I think for me to kind of see that and not be able to like keep pace or like do what all the cool kids did, most of my high school life was just making sure that I didn't like get picked on. I was fortunate enough that I stumbled into speech and debate, and that was a place where I felt like I could grow. And it was kind of like a collection of all the like social misfits, but we all got along. And at the end of it, I have found it to have made an impact on my life in that I care about speeches. I care about debating in a way that's constructive instead of just name calling. I find that I'm able to express myself a little bit better.
Do you think that has been really helpful for you, like in the past, like months/year in which there was a lot of like, political unrest, etc.? Like, did you manage to like stay away from tense discussions with people around you, or like, did you manage to have to use these debate skills or discussion skills, I guess, like in the past year?
Yeah, I definitely try to keep a distance from people who get very heated about things. I think that usually when it comes to that point, it's not so much about discussing the merits of one viewpoint or another. It usually kind of starts feeling very personal and emotional. And at that point, it's best to just de-escalate the situation. I personally did kind of use those skills. It was about getting the point across. And I find that this is partially from debate and also from just like my own experiences in learning about social psychology, as well as learning how to like empathize with other people. Is as people were explaining their viewpoints to me, I would try to repeat it back to them so that I, one, was able to encapsulate what they were trying to say, two, they felt heard. And I think that by establishing that I'm not there to necessarily prove them wrong, but to better understand their viewpoint, I think that helped to keep most of my political conversations civil and polite.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds awesome. It's like definitely something that I wish we learned, or at least I wish I learned in school back in the day, was like, I think they train us a lot on like debate, which emphasizes like correctness, right? Like trying to prove that you are the right one. But I think like in life, when you are discussing like a lot of different things, like everyone's going to have different viewpoints, and you can never like truly be the same person because we aren't. It's like, it's more about understanding as opposed to agreement. And I think that was like a huge revelation to me, like as an adult, where I'm just like, oh, the point of like talking is not to debate to like prove correctness, but it's so that you can understand each other's viewpoints. And I think it sounds like you're pretty well versed in that. That's pretty cool.
I mean, I definitely can continue to learn. I don't think I ever stop learning, but I am glad that I have been able to use what I've learned in the past to kind of help shape the present that I'm in now. So,
for sure.
I know that you had mentioned earlier, back from the first question, that you now currently read a lot of nonfiction. I was curious as to what you've been reading recently and things that have either been interesting facts about other people's lives or interesting tidbits that you've learned for yourself. I'm not particularly well versed in nonfiction myself, but I see this as an opportunity to learn and to learn, in general. So.
Yeah, for sure. I've been reading a lot of like social psychology type of books. So I was very intrigued when you mentioned that you were learning more about like social psychology and whatnot. But trying to look at my book stack right now, and I think the one at the top of the stack is actually called Design Your Life. I can't see the author from here, but they use a lot of techniques from psychology. There's this one psychological technique called like motivational interviewing, which is like interviewing for the point of like getting to the root cause or like the root motivation of what you have. And then they're using that in order to like help, like the book is basically a self-help book in order to like how to, like the title says, design your life and then like make it more concrete so that you actually achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And I haven't gotten that far in it yet. But I just think like the entire concept is like super interesting. And another thing that I wish I learned in school. Definitely, like, it's like I think sometimes like children are just thrown into the world. They're like, oh, here's like you have to go have goals and then you have to go do them, right? But nobody tells you about like proper like goal planning and proper like execution and like how to actually implement things and how to break things down so that it's like more easily approachable.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a very interesting point that you make. I agree completely. I think that in our school system, at least in the American school system, we get the building blocks for how to do things, math, chemistry, or English language, but there's very little emphasis on how to connect on a social level or connect on like inner reflective level.
Yeah, I can totally go on rants about like how the education system teaches like a specific type of way of approaching problems. Like I feel like we, at least in the education system that I went through in my area, it's like there's a lot of emphasis on like doing things one time. So it kind of breeds this very like perfectionist type of personality because you only have like one shot at doing an exam. You only have one shot at like writing an essay. And like I think college classes kind of try to mitigate that by having like deadlines for a first draft, a second draft, etc. Because like in work, like nowadays, it's nothing is ever like a one shot and then you're like done. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to like iterate on something like over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think at least in my education, I haven't been taught to do that. Like having the anxiety of having to do something perfectly the first time is like how my education has shaped the way I think. And I'm trying to like break that now. So
At this point in the day, I jumped in to let them know that their date had ended and let them say their farewells. I don't know about you all, but hearing about Redwall and manga was a real throwback for me. It was awesome to hear Jon and Michelle connect and open up about their past through the lens of what book characters they'd want to be. Do you think they matched? Tune in to the end of the season to find out. That's all we've got for you today. Shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at theblinkdate or at Date in a Blink to let us know what you think. If you want to sign up to participate in Date in a Blink, visit our website at www.theblinkdate.com. In the meantime, thanks for joining us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening and look forward to talking with you again next time.